Roxo Media House.
The surgeon is in. Former head coach David Beaudin brings his football expertise to Frog fans everywhere in Dissecting the Frogs.
PlayActionPools.com. The newest sports pool hosting platform, Play Action Pools is your spot for all of your football contest needs. Whether it's a pick'em or survivor pool, Play Action has you covered against or without the spread. Be sure to check out PlayActionPools.com and use code FROGS today for 15% off your league.
Welcome into Dissecting the Frogs, presented to you by Play Action Pools and TCU getting it done this weekend against Texas Tech.
They did, and you know, you heard Coach Dykes in his post-game press conference a little somber for after victory, but you know, I think he took responsibility as any good head coach does and said, look, I just think that we played a little tight, probably coached a little tight, meaning not being as aggressive as they'd like to be. You know, especially early on in the game. And so he's going to refocus this week and getting back and just letting those guys play. But, of course, it's a lot different when you're the hunted as opposed to the hunter, right?
Yes.
And when you're the underdog early in the year, you can kind of let things fly and let it rip. And so I think they want to get back to that identity, especially this week coming up with a big one down in Austin. Yeah,
TCU kind of saying a whole grass might not always be greener on the other side thing. We were a little confused why they were riding us off, but, you know, we got to do whatever we wanted. Now they're not. Now they're paying attention to us, and it can be a little nerve-wracking nonetheless. But they are paying attention to us. We saw we're going to talk about it a little bit later, but we did see TCU coming in at 4th on the rankings. Wow. And TCU getting unanimously across ESPN analysis in the college football playoffs. They're putting us up there. Some of them were even 3 spots, which was really impressive, really cool to see.
Yeah, no, but they have to continue to win, right? At the end of the day, they can be ranked in any of those spots. It is exciting. It's exciting for the program. Certainly exciting this time, but they've got a tough stretch coming up. You know, obviously heading down to Austin this week. It's game day. There is going to be there as well, so just another layer, another distraction. And then, of course, Baylor, who would not like nothing more, Maggie, than to flip the script from last year. You know, TCU beat them when they were undefeated to ruin their undefeated season. I'm sure Baylor would like to repay that favor, but we're not there yet.
We're not there. We are not there. But, you know, we did see a lot from the team. Sonny Dykes especially commenting about how now it might not be time to ignore the noise. They might need to address it within the program.
Yeah, you know, they've done a really nice job just not talking about it. And the players haven't gotten it. But at this point of the year, I mean, you know, we're all human, right?
They've seen it.
They have, and they know that they're in the mix here. And so I think he's going to be a little bit more intentional about sort of, you know, make sure they block it out and still keep and maintain really who they are. And that's a week-to-week, really a day-to-day program, worry about winning that day. And he'll get them back right. I think this is the staff to do it, certainly the head coach to do it, and the maturity on the team to do it as well. They just got to get back there because they need to start faster this week for sure against a tough Texas team.
Absolutely. Frogs Today is going to be down there with y'all in Austin and possibly even a little pregame show. We'll keep you updated on that at frogstoday.com. But before we get to that, let's go ahead and get right into what happened this weekend and why our Frogs are still 9-0.
Simply the best barbecue in Fort Worth. Dine in, catering, or drive-through. 2900 Montgomery, just off I-30. Remember, the best barbecue in Fort Worth is at Railhead Smokehouse.
And this one angled to the right, returnable for Davis. Grabs it at the 19, return to the right. Here he comes with blockers. Up across the 20, to the 25-yard line, to the 30, turns the corner at the 40, to midfield, picking his way to the 40, cuts it back at the 30, to the 20, to the 10, 82-yard punt return. Welcome to Fort Worth, Texas Tech.
Darius Davis is a menace on the field. 8 total touchdowns this season, 3 different ways, and even 2 in this game against Texas Tech. But right now, we want to go ahead and focus on that huge one, 82-yard punt return for a touchdown. How'd he do it? What's going on here with the Frogs?
Yes, Maggie, we're definitely going to show you how he did it and the fact that he did it again. He being Darius Davis, who has now 5 career punt returns for a touchdown, 6 special teams touchdowns, and really this is a guy who now has scored 3 different ways. He's rushed for a touchdown, he's returned 2 punt punts for a touchdown. Of course, the rest being receiving. I think he's got 7 on the year. So, but this is a nice job. TCU did a nice job scheming this one up and getting a lot of help from his teammates, and then he'll do the rest. So really just want to give Darius Davis just a little bit of time and a little bit of room, and he's going to do the rest. And so here you see that they're trying to hold these players up. Okay, so these are not rush players. The reason why these two here on the edge rush is to make sure that they force a punt. Really did a good job. The old out-kicked your coverage. This one here, he gets a booming punt out on the directional into this is the boundary side of the field. Okay, and Texas Tech doesn't have anyone split out to this side. They have 2 receivers or 2 gunners on this side covering each other up. You have to have that to be legal, to have enough men on the line of scrimmage. So this player is ineligible if they were to run some sort of fake. They don't here. And so we get great coverage here. It was Diarco Perkins McAllister the sophomore safety does a tremendous job locking him up in press coverage. So now it's the same thing as playing man-to-man as if he was split out as a receiver. He wants to get a good jam on him. He does that, and we're going to see on film later on, he follows him all the way down the line of scrimmage, not letting him get down the field at all. That takes away one of their gunners. That was key. Okay, now he'll end up blocking that same player when Darius reverses fields. He takes this thing this way down here. Okay, Perkins McAllister blocks that same player. He does a nice job smartly. Once he loses phase, meaning he can't reach out and put his hand on his hip, he's out of phase. He does not want to block from behind. So he's smart. He repositions himself and blocks later on. There were 3 Frogs players to throw those, what they call hip buys, or those shield blocks, throwing his hip by the receiver, okay, and sort of boxing him out like a basketball player. And of course, basketball season's underway, so you see a lot of that in the Schollmeyer. But you know, they do a really nice job not blocking in the back and throwing those crackback blocks really smart. Now, Texas Tech sends this gunner to the ball as well. They take this, I guess the guy lining up at left tackle, and they switch responsibilities, trying to create sort of a pick to allow him to have contain. The problem for him is he should stay outside the hash. He falls back into the hash. So now you've got really don't have any players. You've also got to this side, to the field. Okay, but you've also got guys following each other. You don't want to follow the same color jersey. And they do that here. They really want to create sort of that picket fence and spacing it out. They don't. They all go to the football. They lose contain. You couple that with the fact that all these great blocks, Darius Davis does the rest for an 82-yard touchdown to kick this one off. It was right at the beginning of the game. Crowd was into it, and Darius Davis comes through again. But again, as you see here, there was a lot going on. I don't even know. I take a look at this board. There's more lines than I can even figure out. I don't know. Let's go on to the next one from here. But this was pretty amazing stuff.
Every week we see big plays supported by a team effort, and Dave, this one's no different.
No, it's not. And of course, you know, Darius Davis, rightfully so, gets all the attention and accolades for his play return ability, and he did for this play, and as well he should. He's super talented. But I want to go ahead and take a look at everyone else's responsibility in this and how it all came together. And so I showed you a little bit on the board, sort of the scheme and how it was a man scheme. A lot of times they'll build a wall on to this side, but really what they do here is they want to lock up man-to-man, okay? And then for these 2 rushers that we talked about on the board, these guys are rushing here, and then they'll come back and retreat. So once they come back around this way, they end up picking up the same players that they left, these 2 here. Of course, the shield, we're not going to block those guys at all. They're big guys that can't cover. Go ahead and leave those guys alone on the return. We'll get out. Darius Davis certainly is not going to get tackled by those guys. But really, this is what I was talking about here was Diarco Perkins McAllister, and just does an amazing job. He's a sophomore safety, and really, you know, this is like playing, when you're playing the anti-chase on punts, it's almost like playing man-to-man defense, press man-to-man, where you're using that post arm and try not to get him, you know, off the line of scrimmage. So you'll see that down below, and he'll ride that all the way, and then now all of a sudden, so he does that. It's an amazing job. I mean, the balls, you know, everyone else is down the field, and this guy really hasn't, you know, barely left the line of scrimmage yet from Texas Tech. So now he's in a trail technique. He doesn't want to block him from behind. Very smart. Okay, so he'll go ahead and jog down the field, then get in position and end up blocking that same player again. So now he turns back this way. So now he's got 2 for, you know, really 1 for 2, right? You know, that guy twice makes a big block there and allow Darius to go ahead and scoot into the end zone. And so really nice job by him. But really there's those 3 shield blocks that I had mentioned. We'll go ahead and take a look at those as well. And those are those hip-by blocks. They're trying to rip that hip through, and they do a nice job here of that down the field. And so as we let this play, there's one there. There's one that right there at the end, and then really nice job getting in front and really just boxing out like he's playing basketball, trying to get a rebound. Getting that hip in there, just putting his arms out, making it clear to the referee that's not a block in the back. Because as this returner makes the turn, that's when you see those peel-back blocks that used to be legal about 6-7 years ago, that no longer are illegal. Even though if it's in the front, you can't block from behind the ball. And so they do a nice job, really have worked their technique to rip out and get those shield blocks and give Darius some space.
Oh, yeah, and Darius has a ton of space here making that return possible, as we just looked at. But even though he's getting the return, we see those frogs in the front really rushing that punter. How does he do that?
Yeah, so they'll leave those guys alone. They have to rush those guys for this reason, Maggie. So, it's nice. They clearly have a return set up, right?
Yeah.
That's the call. They want to get Darius the ball, give him a little bit of room. He can do the rest. But so it's not a punt block, but they have to rush these players in order to make him kick the ball, right? Because if they just peel back like everyone else right now all of a sudden he can the punter for Texas Tech can either take off or, he can at the very least hold on for a long time, let his coverage get down there. But he had to kick it quick. He really had a really nice punt. This is an 82-yard, ended up being an 82-yard punt return for a touchdown for Darius Davis, who, now this is his fifth, right? Is that right? His fifth career punt return, owns the record for that, and I think has tied the record with Cavante Turpin for kick returns.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and
teams.
Darius Davis has that Cavante Turpin-esque to him, and we see it a lot on the field. It's fun watching Cavante Turpin in Dallas this year, and I'm sure we're going to see our boy Darius Davis up there in the NFL. And it's really cool to just see a guy like that play with this NFL caliber, and especially playing for us in Fort Worth. I wouldn't want to see him on the other team. I'd be a little scared of him.
Yeah, let's enjoy that while we can and keep him here in Fort Worth for as long as we possibly can.
Absolutely. It's always a great day when you have Darius Davis on your team, and it's always a great day when we see the TCU offense. Next play, we're looking at it.
The Flying T Club provides the everyday TCU fan and alum the ability to specifically support TCU student athletes. Flying T Club offers 3 levels of memberships. The Flying T Club is a nonprofit organization supporting the brand development of TCU student athletes through a series of unique event-based networking opportunities, which are exclusive to our members. These events provide a great social engagement tool for our members and student athletes alike. Follow them on Instagram at Flying T Club or online at flyingtclub.com. 1st and 10 now for the Frogs in the 42. 3 receivers left. One to the right. Miller in the backfield. Play action now for Max. In the pocket with time. Looking. Now sets. Fires. Got a man wide open. Across the 45, 30. Actually, they're going to spot it all the way down to the 28-yard line.
TCU finding success with the crossing route. And this one, it's to Tay Barber. Let's go ahead and see how the Frogs got this one done.
Yes, Maggie, it's Tay Barber again, and it's another form of a crossing route. This time, Tay is lined up as the number 3 receiver. Remember, we always count from outside in. This would be considered from the defensive perspective. Number 1 receiver, number 2, number 3. On this side, that would be the number 1 receiver. We're not worried about that right now. So Tay Barber's here. He looks like he's running that crossing route, and then he works and gets vertical, much like last week when we broke down Quentin Johnson on a similar type concept. It all starts with the play action to Kendre Miller. Certainly the linebackers are going to be aware of where Kendre is. Okay, they influence that. Here, you'll see them block down. Looks like either a G ISO, the guard ISO, or some type of power play. They'll pull the guard. He now has this outside C gap. Everyone else he's responsible for this gap. Make sure there's no run-throughs, and he works back outside. But this play of action takes care of these linebackers. They're in a zone coverage. Texas Tech rolls this safety down, okay, to play some kind of 3 deep over here. This safety's going to play to this side. They do a nice job over here. Savion Williams clears this thing out. Now, here's where Texas Tech runs us into some trouble. He's locked on man-to-man on the backside, so he has to run with this. By him running with this route, also has 2-on-1, so their safety in their corner is on this route clearing this thing out. Everyone else is in zone here. They run over here. This is a slot fade concept with the hitch and the slot fade, so the corner, they do a nice job handling this stuff off. He sloughs off and takes this one. The nickel steps up, and he runs out to the flat, so they're in good shape here. Safety rolls down, knows he's in zone, so passes it off to the linebackers. They do a nice job passing this off through the zone. The problem is with this corner and man-to-man, he's cleared out. There's no deep third player. There's nobody playing that deep third zone. And so Tay Barber is all by himself for another huge gain. This Frogs offense is just big play after big play, and let's hope that continues some more throughout the rest of the season. But let's go take a look at this one. It's a fun one on film.
Over there on the board, you talked a little bit about protection. So let's go ahead and talk about how this is so effective against this Texas Tech defense.
Yeah, so they really, TCU really loves this pass protection for a number of reasons. One, they've been really sound with it, and they've done a nice job. Basically, it's the same exact as the power run play where they pull the guard. Mm-hmm. Now, everyone's working their same pass as they come down this way. We'll pull the guard. They each have their gap on this play to their left, except for the pulling guard who has the edge and that C gap. Then he's what they call step down and hinge. So they'll step and hinge, and he's got that gap inside. So they're really a sound protection. But on top of that, in facing the Frogs with Jamie Plunkett this week, we talked about how fast flow these linebackers play, and it's not always just side to side, right? It means stuff like this as well. And to me, there's nothing better. And there's no better play action than when they have a guard puller, right? Because these linebackers are reading their triangle, reading their keys. Yes, they see backfield action, but they read it through the line of scrimmage. They read it through those old linemen. And their triangle, meaning looking at that center guard, center to the backfield. And so as they see that and they see a puller, it's run to them. They come stepping up. So they've done a nice job with this throughout the year, and it really influences Texas Tech, again, because of the way these linebackers play. So they step up. So they're out of the picture now, so you don't have to worry about that. Now you're just dealing with the secondary and the third level.
And we see over here Tay Barber looking like he's having himself a table for one right now. No protection. How do they let this happen? I mean, come on, it's Tay Barber.
Yeah, there's no coverage at all. You're right, Maggie. And so, I talked about this coverage on the board a little bit. It was interesting because, they're in zone coverage on this side, so they pass it off to the zone. So Tay Barber's down, your number 3 receiver right here. You'll see him on the crossing route. It looks like a basic crossing route. We saw this last week with Quentin Johnston out of a different alignment. So again, this is another example of TCU doing the same but different, meaning they're giving a multitude of looks to the defense. The presentation is different, but the scheme itself is the same for the Frogs, and that way they're able to mass produce it, continue to get good reps in practice, and make it look different to the defense. I think that's really, when you start clicking as an offense, that's really what you want to be doing. Yeah. So it looks like a normal crossing route, and then he'll get vertical, now heading towards the numbers. Now, the problem is they're fine in here. It gets passed through this zone underneath, this zone, and so on through the linebackers, but because, as we talked about on the board, there's solo here up front on man-to-man, there's no one else to pass it off, and there's no one else to have this deep third. Had he been in a deep third on zone, he would have at the very least be able to rally to that right now for a minimal game. So they don't. They stay man-to-man, and so you'll watch here to stay on Savion Williams, and so that opens them up, Maggie, and that answers it right there. They just had no one else to pass it off to because they had one man-to-man player. Everybody else was in zone, and the Frogs do a heck of a job again, getting their playmakers the ball in space, and they continue to do that week after week, finding little wrinkles and different ways to get there, but staying true to who they are offensively.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Frogs don't get their 7 points they wish they could have gotten out of this drive, but they do get 3, and that ties them at 10. Why do you think plays like that are so important?
The reason it's so important there is you got to keep the chains moving, and it's a battle of field position and get points while you can. And so this one here, it ended up tying it up at 10-10 after the field goal. So it kept it going. Not exactly. They're always looking for touchdowns, certainly. But this is a way here that they were able to get the 3 points. And I have the end zone film up here just one more time on that protection. You can kind of get a different look at it. And what I mean by this, the nice thing is this is exactly where they go to on the run play. They take these angles. That's who they have to block. So everything looks the same. It's presented the same to these linebackers as the power run play. Now it's just the pass protection, and you'll see him take here, and they do a nice job with the play action itself by Kendre Miller, presenting the ball really with the quarterback wants to do. So what Max Duggan's job is show leather between the defense, those linebackers, that leather of the ball, and the running back. Doesn't have to actually touch him, but they need to see that, and that's what really between that and the guard pull makes them step up. So again, keep doing the same things. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Absolutely. And it's play 3, quarter 3. When we come back, don't go anywhere.
Dave's Hot Chicken is a cult favorite and now has 2 locations in Fort Worth, Bryant Irvin Road on I-20 and Berry Street at TCU. Both owned and operated by Horned Frogs. Order the number 4 or number 5 for the tastiest lunch special under $10. Or order online at daveshotchicken.com.
Texas Tech is 2 of 11 on third down, missing on their last 7, facing a 3rd and 8 here from their own 32-yard line. 3 receivers right, 1 on the left-hand side. In the backfield is Taj Brooks for Shuck. Here comes the option to the short side. He turns it upfield, knocked down as it gets to the 36-yard line.
TCU getting a huge 3rd down stop here, this time stopping them on 4th and 4 from the Tech 46, forcing a punt. Let's go ahead and see how the Frogs defense pulled this one off.
Yes, Maggie, actually it forced a 4th and 4, but this one here is actually 3rd and 8. And it got into a 4th and 4 situation right after this play, and to force a punt. And really, from this point forward, the Frogs were in control. But, here at Dissecting the Frogs, a lot of times, really all the time, we're all about scheme and X's and O's. But this one here is about a player. And we're going to show you Shadrack Banks here, right here, this guy showing off his speed. And really, they do a nice job versus speed option. It's 3rd and 8. TCU is thinking pass, and we'll see here on film, Texas Tech was thinking pass originally as well. They went and checked the play into a speed option. I tend to like this better versus man free, meaning if this was man coverage underneath, they could just run these guys off, and the quarterback sort of runs behind them, a little bit like Oklahoma State was doing a few weeks ago early in the game. But that aside, they end up going speed option here, and do a nice job. We'll see Johnny Hodges come over the top. He's got pitch, okay, but he gets over the top of that block. Jamoy Hodge does the same thing. But then on the backside, just entered in the game, D. Winters had been ejected for targeting, so he's out. Shadrack Banks, who hasn't got a ton of playing time at linebacker, he's been playing behind D. Winters. He gets in here, and he does a fantastic job of just hawking this thing all the way from behind for only a 4-yard gain on 3rd and 8. The Frogs go ahead and punt the football. Texas Tech punts the football from here. And then they go down and score a touchdown. The Frogs do, and I'm telling you what, this got this thing rolling. And in the 4th quarter, it was all Frogs, except for that last drive there by Texas Tech. But it all started here with a young guy making the most of his opportunity and just getting to the ball fast. And you'll see a lot of team speed from this Frogs defense. Let's go look at this one on film.
And right here, TCU seems to be playing a little bit softer with their alignment on the run. What's going on here?
Yeah, they are in a softer alignment. It's not ideal for TCU here against the run. However, it's 3rd and 8, and in that situation, the Frogs are thinking pass. Now, Texas Tech was thinking the same thing. You see them change the play late. My guess is they had a pass on. They saw a look that they liked, and they went ahead and called speed option. Now, each week you hear commentators on TV, they call every option speed option. That's really not the case. A traditional option is having a dive player, okay, and so they'll read the first thing, whether they hand it off or not, and then they'll have a pitch key, whether they pitch the ball or not after that. And so really when you're defending any kind of option, and Johnny Hodges is a guy who's at Navy, so he has seen option his whole college career just in practice alone. So he's a guy transferred from Navy. He has pitch player here. So he has the pitch player. He gets over the top of the block. Really smart by him. Okay, so he also becomes sort of the de facto edge player as well, but he's responsible for pitch. So you'll see him get over the top, and then all of a sudden Jamoy Hodge gets over the top of that, and then there's our guy Shadrack Banks, who I was raving about over on the board, and you'll see that speed Maggie from behind to come down and hawk it down. Yes, it's a 4-yard gain, but it was 3rd and 8, so they end up being 4th and 4, forces the punt. That very next drive, TCU goes down and gets a touchdown. They never look back from there.
Oh, yeah, we saw a turning point there for sure. And Banks is a guy who, he could have his own segment just talking about his speed. We could go on and on for hours about the impact he has. And we've seen him return stuff, haven't we, before?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't recall a time that I've seen a linebacker back deep to return kicks in a college football game. And Shadrack Banks is that guy who's been back there returning kicks. So you know the speed that he has, and it's certainly on display on this play. And really just a guy that just, see ball, go get it. And, he did did a nice job stepping in for D. Winters, who's just gone out at this point, in a critical situation. And we're, of course, going to miss him for the first half versus Texas next week. But plays like this from Shad Banks, really has to get you excited and give you confidence that they're going to be okay in that first half.
Yeah, and that's that depth and next man up mentality that we just continue to talk about with this TCU team. And you're right, we're going to be needing that, especially from Banks this week in Austin. And when we come back, the very last of Dave's faves coming up.
Texas-based Happy Water offers the best tasting, sugar-free kids drink ever made. Happy Water comes in 4 delicious flavors that you can find at local retailers and on Amazon. Each pouch contains 0 grams of sugar, 0 calories, and 0% juice. Head to happydrinks.com for more information and to purchase Happy Water. That's HAPI drinks.com. Live happy, be happy, drink happy.
It's more than likely a rundown for the Horned Frogs. Man in motion now across the formation. Fake the inside give. Max to throw the football. He's got a man open, and it's caught for the score. DiMaccardo out of the backfield.
Frogs right now 2 back-to-back negative plays, but leave it to the Frogs to get it done. They're going to figure out how to take this one up, and Dave's going to tell us how they did this.
Yes, Maggie, 2 negative plays in a row for the Frogs, but they make up for it in this one. End up 3rd and goal from the 16. And so, right here, they're thinking pass, but this jet sweep motion, they faked the jet sweep, and they really had a lot of success on this throughout the year. And you can see it here, where they end up going a 4 verts concept here. Instead of going to the backside hash, I'm going to show that on film here in a minute, they actually overload this side. They get verticals up this side. Dominic D'Annunzio, after they shift, so Jared Wiley and Dominic D'Annunzio originally line up here. They shift over to this side. And it leaves, I believe they had the corner over on this side, so it's drawn. He gets run over to this side quick, so they're trying to line up late to the shift. From here, D'Annunzio does a really nice job working to get to his landmark, which is the numbers. He wants to get the numbers on the field, so he's working here. The corner go ahead and falls that. They rock and roll the safeties. We'll show that on film as well. As this safety comes down for Texas Tech, he ends up taking the motion man, and he goes back out into the flat. This safety, instead of getting down the middle right away, he works sort of flat-footed, rallies late to Jared Wiley on the vertical. But that means that nobody has our guy here, Amari DiMaccardo, who goes immediately up the seam, and he is wide open in the end zone. And he shows now his ability in pass protection, running the football, and, of course, here with the touchdown for Amari. And so this one here, right here, really sealed it for the Frogs. They were able to get one, and again, the game was over at this point for the Horned Frogs, and now 9-0 right here.
And on this play, outside looking in, it looks pretty easy for the Frogs, but I know that it's very deceptive, and there's got to be a ton of moving parts. So talk to me about those.
Yeah, I think it all starts with the fact that they've been so successful on this jet sweep motion, right, throughout the year, and actually handing the ball, that nice touch pass that they've had to several different receivers throughout the season so far. And so you can tell that it's had an impact because this is 3rd and 16, 3rd and goal from the 16-yard line. And, they're still fighting and buying the fact that they're going to run jet sweep on that down distance, which, is highly unlikely. But, again, it goes back to how effective they've been. So it starts there, really, for the Frogs. So they do a nice job in the play action there. They take them to the flat, and then you'll see the safety rotation here in coverage. But really what they do, they go 4 verticals, show the 4 verticals on the board. Typically, just so you can see the landmarks, when you go 4 verticals on anything, you can line up in a multitude of formations, line up wherever you are. You always want to get a player on the numbers. So you want to play right up the numbers. You want to get one on the hash. And then typically the other landmark is 2 yards outside the hash. That's the old college hash. And then somebody up the numbers. Really, TCU here, you can see they end up keeping Jared Wiley up the hash. Dominic D'Annunzio does a really nice job working to his landmark off the numbers, and they overload this side because Amari DiMaccardo ends up on the seam here, and then Texas Tech is just short here, right? They don't have a player for that, and so by overloading that side vertically, the Frogs really did a nice job in the homework on this play to free him up, and he really does a nice job. Coach Sonny Dykes talked about him being able to track the football. Not a lot of running backs can do that as well as he can, and so he's a guy that's been so versatile for them. In pass protection, obviously running the football, as you can see here, catching the touchdown.
And I think we're seeing a lot of our guys getting stood up on dates, it looks like, just out in the open, singleness everywhere we go. I mean, there's just nobody on DeMarcado back here. Did they try?
Yeah, I think they do. I've never heard it put that way. So that's
it just helps me think about it better.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's my words.
I don't think these guys would probably have trouble in the dating game, but I do think here having guys cover them for sure, they stay single.
Yeah.
But really, Texas Tech is in a man-free coverage, so man underneath. They bring 5. Instead of falling this over like man, they rock and roll the safety.
Mm-hmm.
So what that means is they rock the safety down to play. He's got the jet player in the flat. This safety's supposed to rotate down the middle. He really stays flat-footed, and that hurts him as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so now when you see Wiley getting up the hash mark, really this linebacker tries to carry it. He doesn't, so the safety has to take that one. And we've already talked about the safety rotating down to take this one.
Yeah.
The corner takes D'Annunzio up the numbers, so now there's nobody left, right? They just
Yep.
run out of people, and that's why he's running free. And
Yep.
I guess
He's looking for a date right now, and I see him. He's right there. He just must miss the subway. It happens. It happens. It especially happens to Tech in this game. And when we come back, we're closing out the show.
Say hello to the water of tomorrow. Richard's Rainwater. Richard's Rainwater is 100% rain, refreshing, renewable, and the only ingredient we use in our water. Why rain? Because everyone deserves access to clean water, and rain is a 100% renewable resource available everywhere. Drink the rain. Save the planet. Shop now at richardsrainwater.com.
That's going to do it for our show today at Dissecting the Frogs. And we've got a big game coming up. You're going to want to get your rest in Austin. It's going to be a big game. We've talked a lot about getting everyone's best games, but this week in Austin is going to be Texas's best game. Everyone at this point, and I mean even Baylor, we tease a little bit, might be their best game. Dave,
Right.
we've got a lot going on.
Yeah, there is a lot, and then you couple that with we all know who's on the other sideline, right? And TCU legend Gary Patterson, and so that's the storyline all week, and that's another distraction again that these Frogs are just going to completely block out because they've got an undefeated season to worry about, and so that the focus will be just starting fast, being who they are, and trying to fend off because Texas has been a team that have started fast as well, and so you don't want to get yourself in too big of a hole against a real quality Texas opponent, and so that'll be an emphasis to make sure they just kind of don't worry about it, block the noise once again, and just make sure they focus on doing their job, and I think they'll be in good shape doing that.
Absolutely, and as always, we have a ton going on this week. Dave, what do we have for the shows?
Yeah, so of course, Dissecting the Frogs will be right back at you a week from tonight. We'll have you again breaking down this Texas game coming up, and then tomorrow night is State of the Frogs with Coach Sonny Dykes and our own Brian Estridge. So you want to check that out. 7 p.m. We'll have Facing the Frogs with Jamie Plunkett. Myself will kind of break down. On Thursday, we'll get into a little bit on this Texas team. You got Frogs today on Wednesday and Friday, and so make sure you're on the YouTube channel. And on the website, you got Jeff Wilson, Melissa Troybosser, we've got Jamie Plunkett, Drew Davidson. There's tons of stuff going on. I mean, wall-to-wall Frog coverage. Get on frogstoday.com. Join us and go on this ride with us because it's a blast.
Absolutely. And you're going to want to go ahead and like, share, subscribe, ask questions. I've always wanted to know why Dave has an obsession with hats. You might be wondering that too. Go ahead, ask it. It's a free-for-all. Thank you for joining in with us today, Maggie Hale and Dave Beaudin.